Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe podcast. I am your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Joe. He's currently pissing into the mug.
That was a big glass. This is about to be an episode. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a personal favorite of mine. Oh, man. Miss Kim Crawford is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. We have a gorgeous Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough, New Zealand, courtesy of Kim Crawford herself. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get frisky.
That was an opening, now wasn't it? Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're here to do another rapid-fire megasode. This is the second one, as we promised last week, because we're a couple of behind boys, and I'm not talking about the frisky kind of behind. I mean, like, we're behind, like, a couple of weeks.
A little bit of both.
We had some comics to catch up on.
But, you know.
All right, I won't deny a little bit of both. But in this context, strictly, we're behind in schedules. But now we're caught up with this episode of the Rapid Fire Megasode. So I'm not going to waste any more time here. We got a lot to get through. Joe, I'm going to start us off, if you wouldn't mind. And I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different, because I recently finished Volume 2 of something that's very special. It's like an earthy totem, if you will. So I've been reading the absolute editions of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run. I got both the 2 volumes that are out currently. I believe there's a 3rd volume that's going to be coming out that's going to wrap up everything. It's going to have all the stuff that wasn't contained in these first 2 volumes. It's from the 80s, like 84, 85, 86. And it's just the run of Swamp Thing that Alan Moore wrote back in the 80s. It's very good. And I don't know how else to put this. The absolute editions, they're bigger than standard comic book stuff. You open it up, you have artwork that just looks, ooh, mamma mia, immaculate. Not only because you have all the wonderful art by all the original pencilers and inkers and all that sort of stuff, but it's got updated colors. And now, Joe, I don't know if you know this, but updated colors tend to be a bit of a controversy. It's not... People are always like, I want the original colors. I want the original... Shut the fuck up and stop whining. Because the colors in this goddamn comic are so fucking beautiful. I don't know what else to fucking say about them. They're just that good. Coloring is by Steve Oliff, by the way. Fuck the purist, exactly. I was going to try rapping something, but then I was like, I don't want that preserved on the internet forever. So, yes, colors are by a guy named Steve Oliff, who I believe I told you, but for anyone who doesn't know, is the man responsible for coloring the Akira manga back in the day when it got its... U.S. release, because all the U.S. PI folks were like, oh, we can't have black and white manga. You have to have it colored because everyone here is idiots and likes colors. But anyway,
Charles? Is that you?
Charles!
Move on, please. Move on quickly.
Deadbit! But yeah, so I just want to say, if anyone who is interested in Swamp Thing even has a passing interest, pick up at least the first absolute edition of this stuff, because it's expensive. It's like, I think the cover price is like $100, but you can also get it for like, I think I got it on Amazon for like $50 or $60, so like way marketed down. Praise Bezos. But so, yeah, it's great. The cover, it's like a moss texture kind of a thing. It's really cool. And again, the art is incredible. The stories are amazing. It's like the foundation of what creates, or like what is modern Swamp Thing. It's just great. Also, Volume 2 introduces one John Constantine. It's like his first ever comic appearance, and I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. So, absolute edition of Alan Moore's Swamp Things. They're beautiful. I love them. Great stories. Pick them up if you're interested. That's all I've got to say about that. So, Joe, talk to me a little bit about what you've been reading this week.
Oh man, Blade Runner is back. We had a couple of weeks there back in like May where like all I talked about was Blade Runner, and then it just disappeared. I think they went on vacation, but they're back. For some reason, my girl Peach Momoko is no longer doing the covers, at least not this one. So I don't know what she's up to. Maybe she's been a little bit busy with Demon Days. I don't know the details. I don't follow her on the gram anymore, specifically the Teddy gram. So she could be busy doing other stuff, but we got this cover, and I gotta say, it's not Peach. It's not Peach. But hey, we're moving on, right? We left off with Ash got captured by some of Yotun's replicant army, and Yotun killed all these like head people in LA, like they're kind of politicians, and he broke off part of like the seawall. There's this big flood. Terrible. So now Yotun is on his ship with his boys, and some cops pull up, and he goes, "Hold up, let me kill these motherfuckers." He just kills them all, jumping from ship to ship, and then he takes over one of the cop cars. And then we jump to where Ash is, and she's like being held in like Yotun's like underground lair, and by these two other replicants, and she like beats them up, kind of like punches them a little bit, and she runs away. And you're like, oh, cool, she's gonna get out. And one of the replicants is like, well, there's nowhere she's gonna go. And you have this beautiful double-page spread of her realizing that they're underneath a like waste management plant. So literally no one, unless you knew where it was at, you're not going to find them because there's just a shit ton of trash above you, which was pretty interesting. But Ash sees this like cop car coming down. She's like, oh God, they found me. And she then quickly realizes that it's just the cop car that Yotun stole. And he doesn't beat her up, but she still has that back pain, if you remember, from 2019 when she hurt her spine.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, it's continuity, man. So she like, oh, my back. And Yotun's like, you old bitch. Picks her up. He goes, I will take care of you now. And I'm like, oh my God. What the fuck?
Funnily enough, Joe, that's exactly what I say to my grandmother whenever I see her.
Dude, no, that's what I say to her. You're getting it all messed up. So Yotun captures Ash, and he forces her to see what she's done. And what I mean by that is, he sits her down and kind of like straps her down in this chair, and he makes all the other replicants like take off her hood, and he's like, this one you gouged their eyes out, this one you slit their throat, or something like that. And like she's forced to deal with like, oh, like these are people, like how did you do this to them? And you're like, okay, well, what the fuck is the point of this? This is like some weird shit. And she's like, all right, well, were you gonna kill me? He goes, no, I have a new plan. And it gets all dramatic with these bubbles where he's all philosophical. He goes, instead of killing you, I will give you new life. And the final page is this really fucking cool full page of Ash naked in this tube. The tubes that the other replicants were in that Yotun was reviving. And I guess he's going to try and like turn her into a replicant or modify her somehow. I don't know. It very much gave me Ghost in the Shell vibes. And yeah, this thing, 2029 is pretty cool. They do a very good job with Blade Runner. I like this a lot.
Yeah, every time you talk about it, I'm always just like, I need to pick up these goddamn trades for the 2019 book that I missed.
Let me tell you.
And then,
Let me tell you.
What?
Hold up. Is it in the back? Where is it? Come on. This is the rapid-fire megasode. This isn't supposed to take forever. Come on. You gotta find it. Okay. The complete Blade Runner 2019 box set is available right now. So I know you're missing some of the 2019 ones, so you could get that. And then once 2029 is all set, then you'll have that you can buy and trade. The box. Oh, the box set is not out yet. It's out September 7th. Forgive me, I jumped the gun. Moving on. Tell me about your stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Rapid fire megasode. Here we go, baby. Because last week we talked about Wonder Woman number 773, and again, we're some behind boys right now in both contexts, but in this context, again, time-wise. So number 774 Wonder Woman also came out last week. So in this one, if you remember from last week, Wonder Woman left the Norse realm and entered into Olympus, and Olympus is fucked up. And I mean, like, is real fucked up. So she comes in there and she's like, what the fuck is going on? Also, costume change and a different artist who I'm not quite as fond of, but he gets the job done. It's not bad. I'm just like, oh man, I miss the artist who was doing all the stuff beforehand. He was really good. Anyway, Olympus has no gods. They're all dead. And Wonder Woman is like, what the fuck? How are all the gods dead? So she and Ratatosk, again, unicorn squirrel, we've been over it. They kind of go up these steps to one of the temples, and they find a guy who's like buried under rubble. His name is Janus, or Janus. I don't know how you pronounce it. Janus. Whatever. I think he's a Roman god, is what he says. He's like, it's weird because I'm like a part of Greek and Roman, but really just Roman pantheons. Weird stuff. But he's like, all right, so I used to be two people. Now I'm one. And what happened was that when Wonder Woman left and became part of the Norse realm, what turns out is that there was supposed to be like a weird prophecy thing that was kind of happening in Olympus. And so Giannis, who was these two entities, knew that they had to like fulfill, because like one part of Giannis looks to the past, one part looks to the future or whatever. And so they split, so that way one of the Giannis's could then become that role that Wonder Woman was supposed to fulfill. But they kind of went a little crazy, became a little evil. Instead of acquiring the God Killer sword, they acquired something called the God Scraper, which is basically just a scythe that's as powerful, if not more powerful, than the God Killer sword. And then Giannis went on a tear through Olympus and just killed all the gods for whatever reason. I don't really know yet. And so that, I was like, what the fuck? So Diana is basically like, okay, I need to find this person and stop them, but first I need to find the gods. So she and Ratatosk go off to Tartarus, because they need to get to the graveyard of the gods, and this is the most direct route, even though Diana's like, I really don't fucking want to be here. All these people that I sent here are now suffering eternally, and I don't want to see that. It's kind of bad. And then Boston Brand shows up, because she called him. She's like, hey, can you come out and help me? He's like, yeah, sure, I'm just playing cards with Madame Xanadu over here, so fuck it, I'll come with you. And he arrives in like this elevator in Tartarus with them, and they go down to the graveyard of the gods, and the final page is just this really cool looking character who's got like a staff and a big old cloak, and like it looks like a witch doctor mask, but it's made of bone, so it's like a giant bone bird skull that they're wearing, and they're just standing in this field awaiting Wonder Woman, Ratatosk, and Boston. And so I'm like, ooh, cool. So this next issue, it's going to be following them going through the graveyard of the gods, trying to restore the gods back to Olympus. So again, I'm sad to see the art has changed. I'm like, no. And also the costume has changed to be like reflective of the Greek pantheon. And I'm like, man, I really fucking love that Norse look. But I understand it. It's cool just to see her going from different pantheons. I'd be interested to see her go to even more after this, potentially. But yeah, Wonder Woman's still a pretty damn good book. Pick it up!
Wow, that was a little aggressive, but okay, I'll do it, man. Leave me alone.
I want you to pick it up!
Okay, Fantastic Four Life Story number 2, Life Story number 1.
Hey!
One Joe was very disappointed. Other Joe was like, hey, it's fine. Now we go into this one, and starts off with, the first page is basically the ending of the last issue, and then
Yes.
Reed is giving this presentation about Galactus at this like Stark convention, and they're all kind of laughing at him or whatever. Also, this is narrated, quote unquote, narrated by Sue.
Yes, it's all from the perspective of Sue Storm.
Yes, and there's also a lot. I don't want to say name drops, but they just throw so many characters in this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we got Daddy Stark in here. We have Dr. Pym in here, aka OG Ant-Man.
Stark.
And during this same panel, we get introduced to Von Doom, you know, Doom, Victor Von Doom. I was like, oh, God, I hate that.
The Doom.
Which I was waiting for. I was like, come on now. And then, you know, we kind of get this, like, battle scene where they're fighting, I don't know, is it the Mole Man? Something like that? I don't even know, but...
No, it's like the Mad Thinker, I think is what he's called.
Yeah, something like that. And he does this... Reed does something funny. Turns out he's a robot, but... Whatever. But yeah, Doom is introduced. There's this little flashback. But the main thing about this is that it's from Sue's point of view, and she's being ignored, really, by Reed. She feels like she's being ignored by society, and this is also the time of the women's rights movement, so it very much has that vibe and plays a big role in this. We get introduced to Black Panther in this in a very, very cool way. We have a little bit of Captain America in here. We have someone who I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, why is Aquaman in this? And then what?
Namor, baby.
What a sexy stud. My God. And I'm like, why are all these characters popping up? And it's like, oh, there's the meeting of heroes. And I was like, okay, cool. But Reed apparently was like, nah, we ain't going to that shit. We gotta figure out about Galactus. And Sue's like, you motherfucker, you didn't even run it by me. He's like, girl, aren't you worried about Galactus? And she's like, you bitch, I'm going to the meeting. she goes to the meeting, and Namor is kind of. I mean, I knew it was coming. As soon as the scene of her and Namor, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, how did they do that in a comic book? Convey that, like, that was pretty damn good. If you can just do that on a page, I'm like, all right, there's something there. Okay, and basically, they have this meeting, and Von Doom is working with Reed to build some sort of suit. I'm a little confusing why they're building the suit. They probably mentioned it, but I'm forgetting this. I read this a little while ago. But Doom is like, ha, I tricked you, you motherfucker. And then he goes to like beat up everybody and take control of the new world. And Sue is the one that ends up defeating him. And you're like, oh, cool. But she's like, Reed, we need to have a conversation. And the last couple of pages are the post Von Doom fight. She ends up divorcing Reed. Reed moves in with this thing, which I kind of love. Their son gets very angsty. Sue starts seeing Namor, which I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, this is quite a turn. And
she's fucking a fish, man.
yes. And then at the very end, Reed gets a call of like, oh, there's something happening. There's this weird thing that we're picking up with the telescope. And it's big, and it's heading for Earth, and it's insinuating that it's Galactus. And you're like, ooh, what can it be?
Yes. So there's a lot. I can vouch for you. This is a lot. So yeah, Namor is. I'm going to start by explaining to you just a couple of these things, just because this all makes sense if you have some more understanding of Fantastic Four lore. Real quick, Black Panther, his first appearance was in a Fantastic Four story. So the fact that he appears here as well, kind of like being introduced into this world, that makes sense. That's very much like a callback, being like, oh, cool, it's Black Panther, blah, blah, blah. The guy, if you recognized Mr. Claw, the guy that he was kind of like, all right, I gave you vibranium, now fuck off. That's the villain, Ulysses Claw, played by Andy Serkis in the Black Panther movie. He famously loses a hand and then gets the vibranium hand that he does whatever the fuck he does with it. Namor, also a very intrinsically tied character to the Fantastic Four. It has happened before, I believe, where Namor and Sue have like a thing going on between them. So that I saw coming from a mile away when he was introduced. Also, Joe, this is something that I think is connecting the two life story books. Because if you remember in Spider-Man Life Story, when Peter is working for Reed, he says something to him about, that's why your wife left you for a fish man. And so I was like,
holy shit, you're right. It's been...
Yeah.
Oh my god. Damn.
And then Reed does his stretchy hand slap across Peter, and then Peter fucks off. But so yeah, I'm thinking this might be all in one universe. I thought they might have been separate entities.
The Life Story cinematic universe.
Well, it's a
roll with it. Just
right
roll
now,
with
yes.
the comic universe. It's still the CU.
Yes, and. So like that stuff I found really cool. Also, Doctor Doom. Thank God they finally reintroduced Doctor Doom, because I was like, he's such an integral part of these characters. Where the fuck is Doctor Doom? The suit that they were making, it was just to fight off Galactus. That was really the whole point of it. The weird stuff to me, I thought Doctor Doom was a little rushed in his development.
Definitely.
Which again, you can only do so much with, again, what you're trying to cram into each issue, because again, there's a lot of stuff being crammed into this issue. But it makes, like, I can understand why you would kind of shrink that down as much as you did, because if, like, you have fans reading this, fans know about Doctor Doom. They understand what he is, where he comes from, all that sort of crap. The weird thing is he's supposed to have, like, magic or whatever, and the suit seems to just have abilities, and I'm like, that's kind of boring. But whatever, maybe they'll develop that later on, and that'll be, like, he'll come back in, issue 5 or 6 or whatever the fuck. But, again, a lot of stuff going on. What I do want to say, though, is that I think this issue works way better than issue 1. I liked issue 2 of this series a hell of a lot better, and I think it all has to do with the fact that it does come from essentially one person's perspective. They focused it up. They're like, all right, here we go. This is from Sue's perspective. We're seeing her, it's like 72, 76, 79, all these years where you have the civil rights movements going on, the women's rights stuff, and then you're introducing all these different elements, but all these elements are tied to or revolving around Sue. Like, again, Black Panther and Namor and Captain America with that whole meeting of the superheroes or the heroes, and then obviously Doctor Doom coming in, and then she stops him, and then because her taking action there, she's like, okay, also, Reed, we need to have a fucking talk. It's like, yes, good. Everything is kind of like tightened up. Ben and Johnny take a bit of a backseat in this book, this issue, but that's fine because like Ben has a little bit where he's like, oh, I'm gonna move in with you, Reed, because you know you're all alone and you're gonna have your own fucking Twinkie and Jack Daniels moment, kind of like 500 Days of Summer. And then Johnny has the moment with his sister where he's like, I always looked up to you, not that asshole Reed, and she's like, thank you, brother, and he's like, yeah, no problem. So yeah, that I just like this issue a lot more than issue 1. How about you?
I agree. I was waiting for you to say that. I was like, I'm like, this definitely felt a lot better. Like I didn't dislike issue 1 as much as you disliked it. But this one, I was like, okay, noticeable jump, way better. I like having it from Sue's perspective. Because even in the first issue, I was like, damn, Sue really got a back seat in that.
Yeah.
And even in this one, technically she gets a back seat, but that's the whole point of it, is that she's getting one, and then it's correlating with the women's rights movement. Much better. Really enjoyed it. I thought the ending was great with them splitting up and Sue kind of taking a stand. I also like what is it? Oh my goodness, the Things joke about he's like, get my friend here a dead Russian. He's like, what's in a dead Russian? He goes, a lot of vodka, and some aspirin, but mostly vodka.
Mostly vodka. It was very good. Yeah, it felt like everyone kind of fell into place. Like the writer was doing better. He had like the characterization pretty good. Also the art, the way you said how it's like you didn't expect like a comic book to be able to convey that sort of like sexy steaminess between like Namor and Sue Storm and all that sort of crap. I specifically wrote down art damn good, expressive faces, because you can look at any of the faces of the characters, like Franklin Richards when he's like, his name is Dad or whatever, when Sue calls him like Dr. Richards or whatever to him, and he's doing that like scrunched up face. All the expressions of Sue, Victor Von Doom, all of his like more sinister sort of stuff. I'm like, none of these look the same to each other, and I love that. It's very good.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We're on the same page there. Let's go to Teen Titans Academy number 4.
Yeah, we spent a long time. Rapid Fire Megasode. But yeah, so Teen Titans Academy numero 4. This was a bit of a weird one. I'm just going to say it. Yeah,
weakest Teen Titans Academy thus far.
Yes, most definitely. And that's mostly because it's not following who we actually care to read about. This is the issue where it's like, I can kind of tell what happened because we have the actual series artist Rafa Sandoval on the annual
and the cover.
He does the cover, and he was working on the annual. And this one, it's a different artist, and we're following the Brat Pack. yeah. Okay. Joe. You sound like you have some things to say. You go ahead. You field this one real quick.
Yeah. So I'm a no-go with the art. It's not bad. But it's not. Oh my shit.
It's not Sandoval.
It's not at all. Like Sandoval. I look at the cover and then I turn the page and I'm like, oh god. Oh no.
It was the big character of the Brat Pack. I was like, is this the same guy? But I was looking at the cover and then him, I was like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. Okay. So basically this issue is focused around the Bat Pack and they're trying to figure out who Red X is. And that's it. I'm not a fan of the art. They're trying to figure out who Red X is. There's some comedy. They make reference to Batman and stuff like that. And then the big, I guess, takeaway from this is that they originally thought Billy Batson was like, has to be Red X. And then they end up opening his room. And after Billy walked out, they opened the door and Red X is in his room. That's it. That's really it. That's like the only thing that like really is like a big deal because it's supposed to be like, oh, I guess Billy Batson isn't Red X.
Yeah, which anyone who knows comics knows who Billy Batson is. Shazam, if you didn't know, Joe, with a point when he was trying to turn into Shazam in the book. But yeah, so like they obviously don't know that he's Shazam. He's like one of the, well, no, because in the cinematic world, nobody has a fucking secret identity anymore. But in the comics, a lot of people still do. He very much always tends to have his secret identity, and yeah, that's like the only real big thing with like, oh my god, is he Red X? And they open the door and it's like, oh no, there's Red X. But also, what was in Brick's suitcase?
Yeah.
Say nothing more. We'll leave it at that because that's the only interesting thing that was brought up in this entire issue.
And it was one of those things where I missed it at first. It was just like they came in and he was like, "What are you doing?" Like freaking out, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we got to run out." They tried to make it like comedical, but
what if it's just his porn?
I was about to say, like, is it just supposed to? I'm like, at first my reaction was, "Oh, they just did it as a funny," and he's this hothead dude that freaks out, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, or is that supposed to be insinuating something?
Yeah, I bet you anything. It's either a one-bit joke or it's going to come back later on and actually be something. I'm leaning more towards the second bit, but I don't know. Only time will tell. But let's move on to the intriguing, the better Teen Titans Academy book, Teen Titans Annual Number 1, or as they call it, the 2021 Yearbook. Joe, what are your thoughts on this one?
Much better, much better. I loved reading this. It's got a really cool cover, and I love the fact that they treated it as I literally just bought a yearbook for the class. It is so cool.
Yeah.
The first page with all the signatures and a letter, like the fact that it's all set up like an actual yearbook, really cool. Love it. Sandoval's there. You get the great art, absolutely awesome. Stitch on that like second page looks badass as hell, looking like what's his name from the Matrix.
Yeah, looking like Neo from the Matrix. Also, I don't know if that first story is Sandoval. I think Sandoval only did Extraction, like the last story in that book.
He didn't do
the pages.
I was about to say that.
I don't believe he did the first story.
The first page of Stitch makes me think Sandoval, but then when I flip it, you're right. It's Bernard Chang is the artist, but
there we go.
Again, still really good stuff, and we get Stitch's origins, which a character that I didn't really care about, but after this, I'm like, oh wow, Stitch is pretty cool. I'm like, I like the story a lot.
It's pretty cool. Also, it was cool being like, I didn't know in the book, maybe they used the proper pronouns when talking about Stitch before, but Stitch is just like gender fluid or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not because like, I don't know what it would not be because of like, but it's just because they're made of fabric. They don't really have a gender. They're just a thing. And they're like, yeah, this is just my life. And they can't sleep, and so that's kind of like their pathos. They kind of reminded me of Al in Full Metal Alchemist, like the suit of armor, and he can't sleep. And I was just like, aw, that kind of sucks. Especially when Stitch was like, hey, Matt, are you up? And Matt's like, what? And they're like, oh, cool, you up. Let's go get breakfast. It's 5 a.m. And he's like, fuck off, I'm going back to bed.
Yeah, and we also find out that Stitch has referenced the fact that they're like, oh, I was like a sorcerer's apprentice and all this stuff that created me.
Dr. Fate.
And then you find out Dr. Fate is their daddy, maybe? I don't.
In a sense, yeah. I'm assuming Fate just did something and created them. I don't really know how. We don't know the exact origins of Stitch yet, but it's something to do with Dr. Fate doing some sort of magic.
Yeah, so pretty cool. I like that a lot. And then we go into 5 more minutes, which I do not like the art in this. This has really weird art. And this one is based around Beast Boy and Raven, which, if you know me, even with the bad art, not bad art. That was aggressive, Joe. Settle back. With the strange art, I'm going to enjoy it anyways. So we get a little bit of kind of like a flashback of the Titan's Tower exploding and what is it? Psy
Beast.
Psy Beast being created. Which if you've read the Teen Titans Future State, you would have known that's a big deal. But they don't do too much with it. It's just kind of there to tease you, and then you get a cute little date of Raven and Beast Boy, and Raven is looking fine as hell. And they kind of she stopped time so they can have a date. It's cute. I love them. They're great.
Yeah, nice little. It's only like 2 or 3 pages, something like that. But it's a nice little bit. Then we move on to one of the more heartfelt stories, both in like art rendition and also just like the story of it, where Matt, who's the guy who's kind of like the Superman, Superboy allegory kind of character, but he's also like an orphan and doesn't have anyone. Is still at the Titans Tower on the weekends. Apparently you can go home on the weekends for like if it's like any kind of away school or boarding school or something like that. And so Tubi is off at his place, and Matt hears Tubi like shouting for help, and so he fucking blasts off over there. And Tubi's like, "Mama's still in the fire. You gotta go get Mama." And he's like, "All right." And he hooks Tubi up to a water tower, and he's like, "All right, you know what to do with this?" And Tubi's like, "Yeah, I got it." And so Matt goes shooting into the flaming farmhouse, and he finds a cat with the name tag Mama, and he's like, "There's Mama." And so he picks up the cat along with some of her kittens, and he brings them out of the fire, and Tubi douses the flames. And then it's a nice little scene where Tubi's family, like his mom and dad, are just like, "You gotta stay for dinner. You gotta do that now." And Matt's just like, I guess. And then they make him part of the family, and he's like, Tubi says to Matt, he's like, "You don't have to stay if you don't want to." And he's like, "Well, that farm ain't gonna rebuild itself, right?" And everyone's like, "Welcome to the family!" And so he's now like a part of their family, which I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute.
Yeah, I like the story in this. Joe, what do you think of the art? This is basically, I was like, oh my god, this is Steven Universe, but comic book art.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Steven Universe, She-Ra. It's like that sort of style of art. And I was like, it's fine. It's a cute little story with this type of art. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. If any like actual major story beats happened in this, then I would have been like, this is weird. But this is like a very much a side sort of a thing, so it's fine. I'm okay with it.
And two things I want to say here. This story, important because, and the order of these stories is also important. So this story really hints at and talk, or at least it focuses on the fact that Matt doesn't have a family, that he's an orphan. So that's something to keep in the back of your head as we move on through this. And also, we kind of skipped around a little bit, just like the actual yearbook stuff. We've been talking about the stories, but there are like yearbook things where it's like the class pictures, the superlatives, like, oh, best dressed or best to succeed or whatever. But there is a little thing after this story where we get some ads like, oh, Star Laboratories or All-Star Squadron, stuff like that. But we have some of the Titans, these first years, their pictures, and we have a giant X, and it says, a red X, and it says X marks the spot. And 4 of the people are crossed out. So I believe this is hinting at that maybe Red X is one of those 4 people.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're going to get more so into that with this final story, Extraction, because I've been doing some detective work, Joe, and I am no closer to an answer, by the way. But I've been trying to do some detective work. So basically, with this last story with Extraction, again, Rafa Sandoval back on the art. Ooh, mamma mia, mwah! So good. I fucking love it. One of the whatchamacallit, the center rectangle of the thumbnail that you're looking at. If you're looking at the video, look at the video real quick. The center thing with Red X kicking down the door, that's Sandoval right there, because he drew a different Red X costume. Because as we come to find out in this, there's an older Red X. So this story picks up 9 years before the events of Teen Titans Academy, and you're just kind of like looking at this like old like apartment building. There's a bunch of not well-off tiny children in there, and these 2 assholes of quote-unquote parents. And so you see this guy trying to sell off this child to these parents, and they're just like, yeah, we'll take him, but you need to pay us 1 more child or whatever. And he's like, fine, I'll go do it. And he goes out, and the Red X is like, you're a fucking asshole. And then he like presumably beats him and then goes into that apartment and proceeds to kill the quote unquote parents. And he tells the children to run, and all of them run except for one. And after, Red X did his shit where he was killing those parents, as you do, he's lying there like dressing one of his wounds, and one of the kids is still there, and he's like, why didn't you run when I told you to? I don't remember exactly what the kid says, but they have a bit of a back and forth conversation. And Red X basically takes this orphan under his wing. And then the final page of the story is just the silhouettes of them. Again, you're not allowed to see who these characters are, but he's like, do you want the mask or not? And this is taking place right before all the kids get onto the boat to go to Titans Academy. So it's like, 9 years then, almost to the present. So there's an older Red X who then trained this new iteration of Red X who is now at Titans Academy. And Joe, I was looking at this tiny child, and I was like, I need defining features. Who the fuck is Red X? And I was looking at them, and I was like, okay. They have yellow eyes. And I went leafing through the annual, just being like, what character has yellow eyes? What character has yellow eyes? And I was looking through, and I went to like the yearbook parts. The only person that I found that had yellow eyes was Summer. the one that has the head wrapping. And I was like, is this the person? But they were like outside of the red X. Like they were right next to it, but not under it. And I was like, damn it, that means there's someone else with yellow eyes that I have yet to see. Yellow eyes, darker skin, I'm assuming brown or like black hair. But I was like, I don't have enough info, and I didn't go delving back through my other copies of Teen Titans Academy. But someone with yellow eyes is Red X, Joe. I swear it.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe this is also the order of this is supposed to hint that Matt is a Red X because he, in the first story, the story right before this, Mother's Brothers, Kittens and Cake, they talk about how he's an orphan, all this, and now with this Red X kind of quote unquote origin story, which I think is pretty cool. We're talking about orphans and a kid that is an orphan raised by Red X, or at least trained by Red X. And I was like, oh, that's supposed to be hinting that maybe it's Matt. But you bring up the yellow eye thing because even when I looked at this kid, I'm like, this kid doesn't look like Matt. And I was kind of unconvinced. I'm like, if this is supposed to be Matt, I'm like, I don't see it. So I'm happy you brought that up. I didn't notice the yellow eye thing. It's a nice touch. But I didn't kind of make the connection of like, I don't see this.
Yeah. So the annual or the 2021 yearbook for Teen Titans, pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. Did you enjoy it, Joe? I'm assuming you did.
Oh yeah. After reading Academy number 4, I was like, wow, that really was not bad, but nowhere near what I wanted it to be.
Yeah. So annual's pretty good. Pick that up, and also all the yearbook stuff. It's cute. I like it. It's a nice touch. So then, moving on to the final thing, Joe, we're bringing back something that we haven't done in what feels like a while, but probably hasn't actually been all that long. Since we both picked up Wonder Woman Black and Gold, that means we got 5 short stories that we can rapid fire through in this rapid fire megasode. So, why don't we kick things off with Mother's Daughter, the first story in Wonder Woman Black and Gold, number 1.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, this is where hard ass Joe comes out because I'm going to tell you. This cover, wow, it's great. It's awesome. It is so fucking cool, and Joe convinced me to buy this. I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I am not buying another one of these issues. This was a waste of my money. I did not enjoy this at all. This story was so fucking... I did not like it at all. I do not like the art. I have nothing else to say. Joe, you run through this, because I'm just going to trash on every single one of these stories. I really am. And it's kind of like this. It's like Wonder Woman's like taking care of her mom. She's like, "Oh, here's the Wi-Fi password. It's your name." And I'm like, "Oh my God, somebody kill me!" Go Joe. Ugh.
Yeah. So Mother's Daughter, it's not very good. It's a cutesy story about Wonder Woman spending more time with her needy mom. Whatever. Like, I don't even want to spend... The art is rather ugly, I found. I was like, what is this? It's a weird... it takes place on Themyscira, but it's like a modern house, and it has fucking Wi-Fi and like cell phones. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then at the end, you find out it's like, yeah, you guys need each other. It's like, you need to be around each other more. And the mom's like, oh, I'm going to spend all my time with you. And then she's like, but if you spend too much time together, that's also bad. And it's like, wonderful. So have a healthy relationship where you see each other every once in a while. Who fucking knew? Moving on. Mother's Daughter. I did a thumbs down and made a fart sound. Next story. What doesn't kill you? This one, also very weird. It's weird watercolor art. And it's basically just Cersei showing Diana all of her mistakes, but then Diana being like, bitch, I already knew them, and I resolved myself to do better. So everything you just showed me only served to harden my resolve, and then we're going to fight. But they don't actually show you the fight because that's not the point of the story. Thoughts, Joe?
Not good.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Another thumbs down. Next story, I'm Ageless. This one, the art finally got better for me. I was like, okay, I kind of like this. It's kind of a cooler, cleaner style art.
It's better. It's still not what I enjoy. It's like this weird, like, almost like they took, like, action figures and kind of, like, I don't know, took pictures of them and then kind of, like, threw them on there. Like, it looks weird, some of the stuff. Or, like, I guess they went for a retro vibe, but it just feels so stiff and awkward.
Yeah, it's very strange. Especially because like some of the stuff that takes place earlier during World War II, I thought was pretty cool. Like the drawing wise, I was like, this looks pretty cool. Then you get to the modern day stuff, and some of that's not quite as cool. Also, Batman weirdly characterized as being like Wonder Woman. You're like immortal, so you can't possibly care for humanity. Bruce, where the fuck is this coming from? Anyway, the weirdest thing by far, though, is that soldier she saves, Mac, like John McCrae, he becomes like a politician, like a senator or something. And then if his wife in the background, it's Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the drawing, it's straight up Hillary Clinton. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I Googled who the fuck John McCrae, what, I don't care about his name. McCrae, I'm pretty sure. McCrae was his name. I Googled him. He's like some British poet or Canadian poet. I was like, this is the only McKay that I can find. I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't care. I'm ageless. It's a little bit better, but it's still a. And then like as the thumb's like diagonal down, I'm kind of like, whatever. Moving on to Golden Age. Got lightning through these things. Golden Age, I think, was my favorite out of the entire book. The art is very kinetic. It's like manga styled. I think the art is pretty cool. Very simple story of two gals just trying to stop some robbers. Tale as old as time, Joe. And it's just nice seeing them kind of do this. And then neither one of them being like, yeah, fucking girls get it done. Guys suck ass or whatever. It's just, they just do it. And then they're recognized for it. And then huzzah, the day is won.
Yeah, this I was like, okay, this is fine. But also at this point, I've read through 3 stories that I don't like, and I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, this side character kind of not funny.
Etta Candy.
Yeah, don't like her. I'm like, I like the old school pow crash boom styling. The art is fine. The story's okay. Like I said, fine. I just breezed through it. But we get to the wager, and I gotta say, I did enjoy the wager, if that's what you call enjoyment. I think the art, it was simple. It didn't try to do too much. The art was solid. I liked the story of kind of figuring out like where the lasso came from, and in the end, the guy being like, you know what, like I don't want to know my kind of see my true self. I'd rather just tell you the truth, which I thought was great. I just see. Kind of seeing how cocky he was and how that changed right at the end after hearing how it was made. Good story. I this one is my favorite.
Yeah, my biggest note for this one is Thighs of the Fates. Because that sent me into a tizzy, Joe, let me tell you.
Yeah, there's some magic going on there.
Magic indeed. Also, Batman now owes Wonder Woman $10 because he, for whatever reason, didn't believe that she wouldn't have to use the lasso of truth, even though she is like a bajillion years old. So again, kind of weird character. Wonder Woman writers don't know how to write Batman. It's weird. But whatever. So that you get 3 like thumbs down stories. You get one from me, a thumbs up story, and then you get another one from me that's like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. It's like a diagonal thumbs up sort of a thing. So yeah, not a strong start to this, especially when compared to the first Batman Black and White, which was so cool and experimental and weird, and I was like, whoa, this is not the same at all.
Are you going to be picking up number 2?
I might, just to see if it does get any better. Some of the creators I recognize for the next one, but again, you don't have to at all. I might not even talk about it if it's not good. I might just be like, whatever, and then just drop it completely. But let's move on to some things that I'm not dropping for next week. Yes, now it's time for the recommendations. So next week, I'm going to be picking up Batman, number 110, I believe. Then you got Geiger, number 4. Noctera, number 5. I'm still thinking, like, do I want to pick this up or not? I'm kind of iffy on it, but, we'll see how I feel about that. The Swamp Thing, number 5, and then Wonder Girl, number 2. Those are the 5 books that I'm going to be picking up next week.
Excuse me, I was drinking my Kim Crawford. I'm picking up Wonder Girl number 2. That's it, and I'm excited for it because Yara Flor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean Yara Thighs. My bad. She great. Gee, awesome.
There we go.
Let's hear the story. I got interested with that first issue. It was a great setup.
It's been a while since the first issue, too.
Yeah, I think it's been a month, actually.
I think it's been 2 months.
No.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Wow.
We're in July. I'm pretty sure the first one came out in May.
Anyway, I'm excited to read that. That's my only one. And another thing just to bring up, I told Joe, whenever there is another week where I don't have a comic, you know, because I don't read as much as him. He reads a little bit more than me. I'm going to pick up Batman: The Long Halloween. So when that week comes, I'm going to be excited to read that and talk about that. But I don't know when that may come. That may never come for like 2 years. I might be picking up something every week, but who knows? But it's just something I wanted to throw out there. Might be in the works.
Yeah, because I'm a big fan of Long Halloween, so that'd be pretty cool. All right, so everyone, thank you for listening to Cup of Joe, Rapid Fire Megasode number 2. I like these; they're fun, just to try to get through as many as you can. And yeah, we'll probably do some more of these at some point in the future. We're some behind boys. Again, yes, both, but mostly I'm talking about time, not the actual anatomy of it. Whatever, you get the gist. So, everyone, as always, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Always helps out. Read some dang comics. Again, they're really good. Anything that you like to hear in here, go out, pick them up. It's a win-win. You get some really cool art. Except for one black and gold. That one's not exactly so great. But whatever. And with that, we shall say, everyone, we love you, we leave you, and goodbye.